Hi, and welcome to Easy Peasy Tutorials for CIS 1323. I'm your tutor, and I will be guiding you through some of the Microsoft Access 2019 lessons. In this particular video, we will be learning about lookup fields and adding the values to this lookup field by referring to another table. Before we get to how to add a lookup field, you might want to know what a lookup field is. A lookup field looks like a drop-down list, which is a list with values or data that you can select from. This allows you to select the data from a list instead of typing all the values each time you want to fill a new record. And also, it lets you see all the options that you have in the list that you can select from. So I will be using the Let Me Try Live file for our practice here. So let's open the file, and I will be working with appointments table. If I double click it, it will always be opening it in the datasheet view. You can change the views from here in the view by selecting the design view, or you can simply right click and say design view. So to add a new lookup field, you can do it either from the datasheet view or from the design view. So let's see how to do it from the datasheet view first. So from here, you have to go to the empty column which says click to add, and in the drop down you see lookup and relationship. You have to select that. It opens up a lookup wizard. Now we're trying to get, say suppose I want to add the rooms for the appointments which will be occupied. So I will be taking data from the locations table. So you know that you are trying to get values from another table, so you will have to select the first option and say next. We're trying to get the values from the locations table, so select the table locations and say next. Now this is actually trying to let you select which particular field are you getting the values from. Now I know that I want my values from the location field, but I would also go ahead and select the location ID because I want to relate both these tables, the appointments and the location table, because I do not want different data going back and forth from the table if I do not link it. So let's go ahead and select this one and the locations and say next. Now this step here allows you to sort your list. Say suppose I want my location, that is the name of my rooms, to be sorted in ascending order. If I want it to be descending, I would just go ahead and click the ascending button and it will be in descending. But I want it in ascending, so I can click again and it goes back to ascending. And I don't want to sort it anymore, so I would say next. This step here allows you to have a preview of how your list will be looking, right? So you can adjust the width of the column by dragging it sideways or double clicking it to auto-fit it. And also, it is recommended that you hide the key column, the primary key column that is a location ID that we selected before. If I do not, it would just display it in here and it would just create a lot of confusion, which you don't want. So it's always recommended that you hide this. Now, if I had not selected the location ID in the previous step, I would not have this option available here. If you are happy with how your list looks, we can move forward and say next. I want to name it as rooms. And the next part here is a little bit tricky, but it's important. This tells you that you want to enable data integrity, meaning if I check on it, I am going to say that I want my data to be safe and consistent in the appointments table and in the locations table. When I select restrict delete, it means that I will not be allowed to delete any data from the appointments table or the locations table because now they're related to each other. If I select Cascade Delete, it means that if I want to delete a data from the locations table, which is now my parent table, it will also delete the related data from appointments table. But it's not always recommended to do Cascade Delete, and I am wanting to go to restrict my deletions. So I'm going to select Restrict Delete. The next part of the step is asking if you want to store multiple values for this lookup, meaning if you want to select multiple values for one particular record, which means that if I uncheck this, it will allow me to have multiple values, which means that I will have 2 rooms for one single appointment. Now that's just confusing, and in this example it's not even valid. So I don't want this, and I want my data consistent. So when I do this and I restrict delete, it does not allow me to have multiple values anyway. So these are all the steps that you need to add a new lookup field. And when I say finish, let's see how your list looks like. There. Now say for appointment ID 1, I want to add room. So this person is having a facial anti-aging, and this is going to be in a spa room A. The next one is going to be in spa room B, and so on. Now, let's say that you have to modify a certain field to a lookup field. For example, see, this customer is showing customer ID. But instead of that, I want it to be a customer name, and I want it to modify this to a lookup field data type. So how do I do that? Now keep in mind that when you have to modify an existing field to a lookup field, you cannot do it from datasheet view. You would have to switch to design view. So if you have to do it, look, if I have to modify it from here and I right click, it does not let me modify anything into a lookup. So let's switch to design view. So we are trying to modify the data type of customer to a lookup field. So let's click on the drop down and say lookup wizard. You see, it's the same lookup wizard that popped up before when we selected lookup and relationship. Now we are going to get the values from customers table. So I still want to select the first option because we're relating to another table, and say next. Now the table is customers, so select customers, say next. Remember that we also want the primary key, so we select customer ID, and I want the full names, so I want first name and the last name, and say next. Here I want to sort my list by their last names, but in descending order. So I am selecting last name, and I select descending, and say next. I want to hide my key column. If I don't, it will basically show the same list, which is still confusing. So hiding my key column, auto-fitting my columns, and saying next. I don't want to change the name of the field, so let it be customer. I want my data to be safe and not wanting to delete, and consistent, so I select enable data integrity and restrict delete. I do not want multiple values, and I say finish. Now I'll ask you, because we changed the type, it was going to ask you to save it, and say yes. Now let's see how the list looks like, which was not there before. So you can see it in the datasheet view. So let's switch to datasheet view. We changed the customer, and now see, all the IDs are gone, and it shows the first names. Now if I click here, you see the arrow appears, which was not there before, and when I select this, I can actually see the list, which is sorted descending by their last names. So what we learned here is that you can add a new lookup field from either the datasheet view using lookup and relation, or you could switch to design view and then just say lookup wizard. Remember, you cannot modify existing fields from the datasheet view. If you have to modify any existing fields to a lookup field, you would have to switch to design view. Also, remember that the two tables are going to be connected, so you want to enforce referential integrity or data integrity in this case. And also, you want to manage how your deletions should be, either by restricting them or cascading them. So that's about it. I hope this video helped you understand lookup fields and how to get values from another table. And keep practicing. I know you can do it. Till then, bye. And I'll see you in another video.